Meeting reconvened. Thank you. Where are we? Okay, thank you. Item 11, review of community arrangements of all town and community councils. I will now ask the Chief Executive to present this item. Thank you, Chair.
Apologies, but that would be unbearable, wouldn't it? This is a report about the review of community arrangements of all town and community councils. Before I forget, we've got Gary Ennis with us, who is the Group Manager for Business Support and our Elections Manager. And he also deserves a medal because he's been sitting for 3 hours at the back waiting for his moment on this. So Gary's here to answer any questions as well, should there be any, if that's okay. The purpose of the report is to approve the terms of reference for a review of community arrangements of all of our town and community councils in the Bridgend Council area, and to set up a member panel to oversee the review. In the background section, you'll get some of the legislative background to this, in particular, the review and implementation of Bridgend Council's ward boundaries and electoral arrangements by the Local Democracy and Boundary Commission. That was implemented in time for the May 2022 elections, and caused some consequential changes, in particular to Bracklow Community Council and Porthcawl Town Council. And then additionally, based on a formal request from them, there was a review of the electoral arrangements in Coity Higher Community Council, also in time for those elections. What we actually have, though, is a legal process where we are obliged to review all of the arrangements within a certain timescale. Ordinarily, that would have been done before now, but as paragraph 2.5 points out, as a result of that overall electoral review and of the pandemic, it has been delayed till now, but we have to complete this and implement it in time for the May 2027 elections. If I then take you to section 3, I think the wording is actually from the guidance, though it sounds a bit drastic. I mean, we're not actually going to abolish communities. We're potentially, the issue is about abolishing community councils rather than communities, if that's misunderstood. But essentially, what paragraph 3.2 is saying is that really we need an effective tier of government at this level. And you will know from much national policy that is the aim of government as well, in terms of having effective tiers of government at all level, including at town and community council level, at relevant responsibilities clearly. And to do that, I suppose what paragraph 3.2 is setting out is that we might need to consider, without preempting anything, we might need to consider the size, the footprint, or the number of members in some of our existing town and community councils. What we've then set out for you, and it's attached as Appendix 1, is our terms of reference. I think you don't have to have these, but I think it's good practice, and it sets out very clearly what our aims are and how we intend doing this. And paragraph 3.4 is very much predicated on involvement from communities, significant consultation, and hopefully the feeling that communities are part of this rather than it being something that is being done to them. The process then is hopefully that you will adopt those terms of reference today. That will effectively be the start of the review. And then we've set out some further steps based on the steps within the review process. We would then have to submit our recommendations to the Local Democracy and Boundary Commission for Wales, following a final 6-week period for representation. But before that, we're also suggesting as an additional step that we set up and create a member panel. Paragraph 3.7 suggests that the member panel should be both geographically and politically balanced, and the parameters are set out there. But we haven't at this stage set out specifically how that will work, and we're suggesting that's delegated to the group leaders, and that will allow time for proper engagement with their own members about who they might want to represent them. And paragraph 3.8, just to reiterate what I said earlier, we have to do all of this and have it all in place in readiness for May 2027. And that, Mr. Mayor, I think takes you to the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, of course. Sorry. Can I ask for a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move, Mr Mayor, give Richard Granville a break.
Hello, second. Would you like to second, Richard?
Yes, second.
Do we have a second? Sorry, I interrupted. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, open for debate then. We have a question from Councillor Ian Spiller.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report is very much welcomed. As Mark and Gary will be fully aware, on being returned to Llalliston Community Council this year, the independent group wrote to both Gary and to Mark to request a boundary review of our own community council to really address the disparity where 347 electors could elect 4 councillors and 1,331 could elect 5. And I know that exists throughout many community councils, and there are many community councils in our borough that struggle for representation. And obviously that is what our residents deserve, representation and people that are prepared to put themselves forward. So I really just welcoming the report, and I look forward to being part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Timothy Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a quick point on point 3.7. Well, firstly, I really welcome this report, as my colleague, Councillor Spiller, has already said. My point relates to point 3.7, the council delegation for the determination of members. I note that there's geographic spread, which I welcome, which is going to include the 4 towns and the 3 valley areas. Of the 2 remaining areas, would that include the Valleys Gateway? Because I think that is an area that is ripe for change, given the seismic changes that we had in the last local government county borough elections.
Oh, sorry.
I'll take that. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah.
Yeah, in essence, we've already discussed that. I mean, it's open to that debate around how we will make sure we cover it. But in our minds, the Valleys Gateway is clearly one that we will want to make sure is covered within that member forum. So that's the discussion that we will have with group leaders to make sure that we've got all those areas covered.
Okay. Yeah.
I got the gist of it, but it was a bit muffled. I don't know if there's a problem with Gary's mic, but could you have another go? Would that be all right? Sorry.
Yes, if I stand a bit closer to that and probably talk a bit slower as well, we'll get there. Thanks, Councillor Thomas. Yeah, we've already looked at this in an area. We have an idea of what we want to cover, and the Valleys Gateway is clearly one that we want to make sure is covered. So we will be looking at that with group leaders to make sure that we've got those towns and the valleys, including the Valleys Gateway, covered off by a member.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nora Clark.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I very much welcome this report. And can I just ask Gary when the consultation will start and how long will it be for? Thank you.
Yeah, well, it'll start very quickly. The first part of this consultation is set out in the terms of reference. So we've got to advertise the terms of reference for 2 weeks anyway. So we do that. And then we literally will be writing out at that point in time to all community councillors and all members and various public bodies to say, what are your ideas? What do you want us to look at in terms of the change process? So that's the first stage of communication. That'll be 12 weeks. That'll take us up to around about October time. We will then look at that and come back with some proposals. So what you'll have there is the member panel will be involved in that to pull together what are our draft proposals for how we want to see that layer of local government, the town and community, how they're set up. Again, we'll go back out to consultation again. So we'll be going back out in the early part of 2024, another 12-week consultation process for everybody to say, are they happy with that? Have they got any complaints with that? Do they want to make representations for that? And we'll again look at that and come back with a final report, and that will then go to the Boundary Commission. So there are 2 key points of sort of consultation that will be there in that process. So there's plenty of time. What the Boundary Commission say to us is you can give 6 weeks if you want to. I prefer to give as long as possible to make sure everybody's got that opportunity to come back there. This is like a once in a 10-year process, so let's not rush it. Let's make sure we give everybody the opportunity of putting that representation, putting their ideas forward to allow us to make a better choice for the future.
Councillor Stephen Bledsoe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I know that the geographical and political balance was made reference to. Will the group leaders be given the autonomy to put forward their nominated councillors? Is that the process, or will it be imposed on them? How does it work on that front?
Okay.
I think we're relying on the group leaders. I suggest it's geographical balance. I think one other thing.
Sorry, Mark, we can't hear you virtually. We couldn't hear virtually then.
No, we can't hear in the chamber either.
No.
Apologies for those that didn't hear me, and apologies for those that did. I'm going to say it again. Yes, it would be down to the group leaders to nominate the people they think are relevant within the areas. I suppose the point I was trying to make is because we have to have political balance, because we have to have geographical balance, and ideally we'd also want gender balance. It is actually quite tricky to get that on, wholly right. But that would be the task that we would allocate to the group leaders, and we've already had initial discussions along those lines.
Well, there are no more questions. So can I take members to the recommendation and ask if they are all in favour? All dissent. Okay, thank you. Item 12. To receive the following question from members to the executive. Councillor Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if any of the councillors who have posed the questions do have a supplementary, if yes, one further question after that, fastest finger first. Okay. Thank you very much. So Councillor Eugene Kaparos to the leader. Councillor Kaparos, you have you had a response. Councillor Kaparos, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Firstly, thank you for the very comprehensive written response I received. My supplementary question is that the change in speed limit has been a hot topic on social media. I was very pleased to see BCBC launch an online consultation for residents. I think it was very informative and easy to navigate, especially with the maps showing exactly how we would be impacted. Can I ask, how successful was the consultation? And will the feedback impact what we see on the ground in our communities?
The members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that follow-up question, Councillor Kaparos. The consultation did elicit a high number of responses, and I know those responses are still being considered, given the scale and size of the consultation and the number of proposed exemptions. And indeed, and I will ask the head of operations to provide some further detail. Indeed, I know that there have been some changes directly as a result of the consultation responses, Mr. Min. With your permission, I'd ask the head of operations to give some further detail on that, please.
So, Mr. Mayor, for the purpose of the recording, I'm Zach Shell, the head of operations for communities. Yeah, it's been really positive in terms of plenty of responses to the first stage of consultation. I would highlight this isn't the legally required stage of consultation that will still occur under the traffic order implementation that is coming up as well. So there is another bite of the cherry for feedback for individuals. But certainly, there are strong themes of feedback that I can give from this initial piece of work that we've done. So large numbers of people that are supportive, both of the 20-mile-an-hour implementation generally, and supportive of the proposed exemptions that had been consulted on. So a lot of people agreeing with what was proposed when they clicked on the map, so to speak. There were significant numbers of people that gave sensitive, and considered feedback in regard to those proposed exemptions, and already officers have taken that on board, and some amends have been made to the proposed exemptions based on that feedback, typically mainly in relation to where they start and finish, that sort of thing. There hasn't been any feedback that was significant enough to indicate that we had proposed any exemptions that weren't in line with the exemption guidance and criteria, and therefore meant that the exemption wouldn't be one that goes ahead altogether. In terms of people where we did have individuals that sort of selected on the consultation that they didn't agree with the exemption, quite often what we had was in effect a double negative. And in theory, we went out to debate, do you think the 20-mile-an-hour introduction is a good thing? That was done at a national level, and a consultation took place at a national level. We are consulting on the exempt roads that we will keep at 30 mile an hour instead of them automatically going to 20. Now, what some people did was when they clicked on it, they click on a particular road, say they don't agree with the exemption, but in their rationale for not agreeing with the exemption was basically saying they don't agree with the 20-mile-an-hour implementation, full stop. So in effect, they do actually agree with the road remaining 30, but they want all the other roads to remain 30 as well. So that sort of double negative sort of feedback, which doesn't actually change the fact that we would go ahead with the proposed exemption. But some really useful, sensible feedback, though, on where they should start and finish, and some really positive feedback as well.
Thank you. Councillor Capros, is that
Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much.
okay then? So we have one more supplementary question on this from the floor. And that's Councillor Melanie Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned the majority of the works will be completed for the 17th of September. However, due to the thousands of signs involved, it is anticipated there will be ongoing works post that date. Have you got a deadline in place as to when you expect the ongoing works post the 17th of September will be completed, please?
Short answer, no, haven't got a specific date. In terms of description, we expect the vast majority of the signage works to be done for the 17th. So, all the key crucial stuff we are aiming to get done by the 17th. Works are underway now. Members may have seen in different areas, posts going in the ground. Quite a lot of them haven't got the signs on yet, but we're putting the posts in, putting the electrical connections in where needed. So we're underway at present. Have I got an exact date? It's an awful lot of work. There's nearly 1,400 signs out there. No, I haven't, but we expect to get the vast majority done in readiness for the 17th. And we will be picking up, there's bound to be some overlap. We're going to be picking up some bits and pieces after, but I don't expect it to be huge amounts of work. What we do expect, though, is the working reality of this is some of it will probably change after the 17th as well. We're being quite open to that. We're following the guidance, we're implementing the exempt roads, but we are expecting some changes to take place after the 17th. Probably linked to the signs, which obviously tell people what speed they should be doing. Is just interesting. I came straight into this meeting off a Welsh Government national meeting with all the other councils on the 20-mile-an-hour implementation, and they're about to enter phase 2 of the communications campaign on 20-mile-an-hour implementation currently. And a big part of that theme on radio and TV that everyone will be seeing is going to be the basic strap line, see streetlights, think 20. And that's going to be a big message that you'll probably all be hearing and seeing over all sorts of media over the coming months. And, that is the fundamental message. So it is important that where we don't want people to do 20, we do get those 30-mile-an-hour signs in place. And it's not like an old 30-mile-an-hour sign where you just have a 30 at the entrance of the area, because 30 mile an hour now are going to be the exception, then the rules change with them. There'll be repeaters needed all the way along those roads to remind you that this is an unusual road. It's 30 as opposed to a standard one. So a lot of work to do. Can't give an exact date, but the vast majority we expect to be done in line for the 17th.
Thank you. Fine, thank you. The next question was presented by Councillor Tim Thomas, the leader. You received a response, Councillor Thomas. Do you have a supplementary?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, thank you to the leader for his response. I think, firstly, anything that encourages local services to be as close to people's homes as possible should be warmly encouraged. I particularly note with quite considerable interest that the inclusion of employment opportunities. I think, firstly, in terms of spatial planning, what we have here is a policy juxtaposition between the 15-minute towns and the Cardiff City regional deal. And on the one hand, what we've been told that the main benefits of the Cardiff City regional deal might not be in direct investment to our county borough, but through jobs in neighbouring local authority areas which our residents can travel to. Now, on the other hand, we've also signed up, well, potentially signed up to, as this authority, to the principle of 15-minute towns. So I'm just wondering, Leader, how can these conflicting policies be reconciled, please?
I don't think there's a conflict at all. Cardiff Capital City deal is actually funding the new development, the redevelopment of the Iweni Road site in Maesteg, the largest brownfield site in our valleys. And as part of that development, there will be an enterprise hub providing incubation space for brand new businesses. So that's actually Cardiff Capital Region City deal, investing in our valleys, investing in our communities, and investing in new spaces for new businesses. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, then we have one more supplementary question from the floor. No? Yes? Councillor Jonathan Pratt, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If no one's going to use it, I'll take advantage of it. Obviously, having seen Porthcawl's the 15-minute village, obviously it's a blueprint. So you've put a point and then the radius goes out. Obviously, my ward of Newton doesn't fit within that. So are there any thoughts on how you can work it geographically rather than just having a 15-minute radius from the centre of town, and how that will fit in 50 minutes over a particular geographical area? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are examples, and if you look at our replacement local development plan, which of course this is part of, the new communities that we are going to develop will have employment, they will have educational provision, they will have community provision, they will have green spaces, very much aligned with the principles of the 15-minute towns. There is, of course, more work to do, particularly with existing settlements, where it is obviously much more difficult because most of the development has already taken place, and particularly where there are settlements like Newton that are surrounded by protected countryside, and it is more difficult then to achieve this aspiration, but it is still an aspiration we will strive to achieve. And of course, Newton is not a million miles away from Porthcawl, and you can see there a very good example of how we are trying to make sure that those services are in one place, part of the major new waterfront development. So thank you for the question, Councillor Pratt, and thank you to Councillor Thomas for asking the question. I think it's been helpful to have this question today, but I also want to take the opportunity to remind colleagues that this was actually presented to Council in October last year as part of our approval of the replacement local development plan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll go on to the next question. Councillor Maxine Lewis to the Cabinet Member, Housing, Planning and Regeneration. You have received a response, Councillor Lewis. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. Can you tell me how the Shared Prosperity Fund will help complement the Valley's regeneration strategy, please?
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. And I think I'd just start with to say I hope she's as excited as I am about our renewed focus on our Valley's communities. I know it's something that's very close to both of our hearts, and I think we could do something really, really amazing. Looking at the work I'm building on the work that's already in my stig to really build something great across all three of our valleys. I would ask if you wouldn't mind if I pass this question over to my colleague, Councillor Farr, who has responsibility for the Shared Prosperity Fund.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Good, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to I'm sure all the members are aware that our properties within our valleys communities have deteriorated over the past few years. The Shared Prosperity Fund will help us to renovate, refurbish both residential and commercial properties to bring them back to use. This fund will further our aim of restoring our vibrant valleys. The two funds just for the valleys are for Lindley Valleys, Garrow and Ogmore, and the two funds are, let me read this out to you. The first fund is named Bridgend Valley Placemaking Property Improvement Grant. This will help us to enhance building frontage and bring vacant commercial floor space back into beneficial use by supporting commercial properties frontage improvement along with other external and internal works. It will also help to convert vacant upper floor space into new residential accommodation above commercial units, including internal and external works, to bring vacant space back into use for residential purposes. And the second fund is named Empty Property Survey Grants. This will offer applicants the opportunity to undertake building condition surveys, I can't say that word, architectural assessments and concept design in order to progress the redevelopment of empty commercial properties. So I will encourage everyone who can apply to please apply for this fund, and the officers will guide you through this to ensure that you meet the criteria. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Just for clarity then, when I invite people for supplementary questions, if you could indicate then, not prior to it. So in that case, we have another supplementary, yeah? So I now invite you for a supplementary. There we are, great. Councillor Paul Davies, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Could I ask the Cabinet Member for regenerate?
Just a second, there's been a malfunction with the screen, yeah? We believe that Councillor Della Hughes was before you, Councillor Paul Davies. So I now ask Councillor Della Hughes to supplement the question.
It's not on the screen, Chair. I'm number one on the screen.
I came up as one. I did come up as one. I did. I think everybody in the top row could see the Councillor Della Hughes back first, and then it was knocked off the screen. It's obviously a decision for the Mayor. My advice would be go with Della.
Yeah. Would it be out of order to have two?
Yes, yes.
Out of order to have two. There we are then, the decision is made. It's Della Hughes, please. Sorry, Councillor.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr. Mayor. I welcome the development of a strategy document to revive and regenerate the valleys, and agree that it is critical to work alongside community councils, organisations and the community to meet the requirements and aspirations of our communities. When the leader recently visited Ogmore Valley Life Centre for the 30th anniversary celebrations, he did say and reiterate how BCBC are proud to support sports activities in the Ogmore Valley. The independent survey that was undertaken and funded by European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development and the Welsh Government, which formed the basis for the Ogmore Valley Community Council Strategy and Action Plan 22 to 27, revealed that the second highest priority for residents was the provision of parks and sporting facilities. Residents have recently reaffirmed this at a public meeting on the 17th of June when they endorsed the submission of expressions of interest for redevelopment of 2 sites in Ogmore, one for use as a memorial park and one as a multi-use games area. What also came through loud and clear was the support for an all-weather pitch facility and improvements at the Planker playing fields, which is something as residents believe as they have been promised for many years. So will this strategic plan be able to provide support for current and future proposals such as these? And finally, on a positive note, I know that the Cabinet member is passionate about regeneration of our valleys, and I really look forward to all stakeholders working together for the benefit of our communities. Thank you.
So there was a question there then. For the company. So we could then.
Then I'm happy to come in.
Okay. Yep. Go on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll get the bugs worked out eventually, honest. Thank you for the question, Councillor Hughes. Taking your last part of the question first, absolutely, we will absolutely be working with all stakeholders. You know as well as I do that we have an awful lot of very passionate community groups and individuals who take part in our communities, in our valleys, and I am absolutely certain that they will make their voices heard in this consultation, and I look forward to working with all of them and officers to do that. So the main part of this strategy will be focusing specifically on regeneration. So on what we can do is partly through SPF and partly through other funds to look at how we genuinely encourage growth and renewal of businesses and residents and the public space within our valleys. So although play isn't formally going to be part of that, and that's a discussion that we had at Cabinet and Corporate Management Board last week, what I have said to officers is that what I hope will happen is that we will therefore see strategies across other parts of our council pulled together as part of that. So, for example, I was speaking to Andrew Thomas earlier today, who's one of our excellent officers responsible for leisure and play, about possibilities for new play opportunities within the Ogmore Valley specifically. But I would hope that that will be carried through as part of this regen as well. I think on specific projects, we'd have to look at it. I know that the Mugger in Nantymoel has been long talked about and is something I'm also very passionate on achieving. And I hope that we can work together, find the funds, find the ability to do it. I know Ogmore Valley Community Council should have a lot of respect given for the amount of work they've done already, along with our CAT team. So I am hopeful that we will see this, and we will see these plans come to fruition and new sporting and play opportunities to appear in our valley communities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please. If you
Yeah,
would.
so just I know you specifically referenced the plans for an all-weather pitch, or the aspiration for an all-weather pitch in the Ogmore Valley, and I can confirm, in fact, because the community council has written to me only recently about this, and we are providing direct support to the community council through the community asset transfer fund, through Cofields Regeneration Trust, and they're very specialist in providing that support, and no doubt we will keep members updated on the progress of that feasibility work, and we'll also be working with Cymru Football Foundation as well, and with other partners in the valleys, because to achieve that aspiration we will need a truly partnership approach, and we will keep members advised of developments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So question 4, and again I reiterate, if there is a supplementary from the questioner, a secondary supplementary question will be indicated, but please do not indicate until you've been invited. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm really sorry. Can I make reference? We can't hear you across the chamber, so it's really, really quiet, and I'm struggling, and I'm sitting here.
Okay, I think the general consensus of opinion is that the microphones have been turned down a bit, haven't they? Am I right?
There is very definitely something
Yeah,
wrong with our
yeah.
sound system.
Okay then.
And Rachel, can I ask you to pick this up after this meeting, please?
Okay, we'll go through it a bit louder. Thank you. Okay, so question 4, Councillor Ian Williams to the Cabinet Member, Climate Change and Environment. So you have had a response, Councillor Williams. Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do. I'd like to ask the Cabinet Member for Community Safety and Wellbeing why this council fails to provide our children with a splash pad when all neighbouring authorities have at least one, with Rhondda and Taff having 2. Can she give me assurances that within the term of this council, Bridgend will have a splash park for the children residing in this borough, eliminating the need for families to travel to neighbouring authorities and helping to reduce our carbon footprint?
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I'm sure you was part of the meeting earlier on when we talked about the financial position this authority is in. And we would love to have wonderful facilities. But our first priority, which you'll be aware we're working on, is to refurbish all existing play areas. It's not good to talk about new facilities. When we've got existing facilities, we need to upgrade and get to a quality position for all the communities. It's not just about play areas, there's lots of play facilities, play opportunities, outside fixed play equipment. That needs to be done first. It'd be foolish for us to plan additional facilities when we haven't got money for, when we haven't upgraded the existing facilities that need that work, which you'll appreciate needs doing in Newbridgefields, where we've met, and many other sites across the county borough. There are 22 sites being done this year. The tenders have gone out, 1.5 million being spent. If there was an endless pot of money, I would agree with you. But unfortunately, there isn't an endless pot of money. You've heard numerous times today about the situation with our social care and our children's services. So that has to come first. And unfortunately, there isn't that money. I'm aware of this moment in time. If that money becomes available and there's a magic money tree you could tell us about somewhere, let's start planning even more wonderful facilities for our children, which would be great. I'd love to see a splash pad facility myself. But at this point, we have to be realistic and live within our means.
I just wonder how our neighbours manage.
You should ask them.
Okay, thank you. So I'll open it up to.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, point of order. I just want to make you aware that Councillor Winstanley has had to leave the meeting due to an emergency at home. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Winstanley. Thank you very much. As I say, I'll now invite one supplementary question from the chamber, please. Councillor Joanna Llewellyn Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to know what's the implications for this building if phase 1 does not go ahead, please? Thank you. Oh, I have the wrong question, have I? Right? Sorry, wrong question.
In that case, I'll take Councillor Maxine Lewis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really excited to, after the visit up to the Garrow Valley, that 6 of our parks are being refurbished this year. Can you tell me when this is going to happen? Sorry.
Yes, thank you. And let me correct you, it's 7 for the Garrow Ward, because there's one in Betws as well. And this is not, I think it's 7 altogether. There's 22, and it's not on a preferential basis. The Garrow Ward, the old 22 that are currently being refurbished have been based on risk assessment, and they're the ones in most need, and the rest will follow based on the independent annual inspection. But I think I just touched on it there, the tenders, as far as what they do, if they're not gone out, they've been passed to procurement to get the tenders out. As I say, there's 22 play areas. Those tenders will come back in several weeks' time. They'll be assessed, but it is not going to be probably till the autumn when the actual works commence. Then, because there's 22 sites, there may be 2 lots of tenders, 2 different contractors. It depends who bids and how that's packaged. Somebody's going to have the leg done first, but somebody may be waiting until later in the autumn, even into early spring next year. But the money's there, the tenders are gone out, the equipment's there, and the work will be happening. But it'd been lovely. I frustrated a little bit myself. I would love to see them all in place before the summer holidays. We have to be realistic again, though, with our resources, the staff we've got. We haven't got massive resources. The community's directed. They're not going to bump on about the lack of resources, but there isn't massive resources to put these tenders out. A lot of great work's been done. It took a long time and I delayed it, but for the right reasons, just meeting in all 22 sites. So I thought it was important that we met with all ward members. They had their chance for input, just as Councillor Williams did in Newbridge Fields. I was happy with the one site being done, and those were fed back then to help the tender process and make sure we got what ward members wanted as well. So it's delayed, but it will take place, and watch this space in the autumn.
Thank you. Question 5, Councillor Mark John to the Cabinet Member, Climate Change and Environment. You have received a response, Councillor John. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Mayor. I do, but I'm quite mindful of the time, and I think our 30 minutes is up.
So we got 2 minutes left.
I don't think I'm going to get it in 2 minutes, Chair, if I'm honest.
No, that's...
It's not. I can assure you I won't get it in 2 minutes. No, I
It's up to
can't.
you then.
I can't get it in 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay, we'll extend it. Yeah. We'll extend the time of it then.
Yeah, the other issue
No? Yeah, there we are. Yeah, I've decided.
Sorry, Chair, I can't.
Yeah, ask the question.
Right. The other issue I've got this afternoon, my answer, there's 2 things that changed that I'd need to reflect on. So it's awkward to ask the question that I want to ask because there are 2 issues that have changed.
Would you like to put it in writing, please?
Yeah, it's fine.
There we are then.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's it. So that's time out then, and for the questions. Urgent items, anything happen? We've had no other urgent items to my knowledge, so I now close the meeting and thank you for your attendance